Welcome back to the Morning Brief. So there is a consensus, and it's a no-brainer really, that if we got security right, then the economy will begin to thrive. So we want to take a close look at the economy now, particularly through the eyes of businesses that are still managing to stay afloat despite the challenges. And we have joining us this morning via Zoom, Mr. Oluwajari Fola Bolumole. He's the CEO at Chokboy Chocolatiers. He joins us from Ibadan via Zoom. We also have joining us in our Lagos studio here, Dr. Femi Oke, Southwest Chairman, All Farmers Association of Nigeria. Also joining us from our Lagos studio, Abuja studio, pardon me, is Mr. Onalo Akpa, who's the Director General, Poultry Association of Nigeria. So we have practically most of the sectors covered in terms of agriculture and industry when it comes to processing. So I'm going to start with you, Mr. Oluwajari from Ibadan. And this question goes to everyone. We know how challenging, we have our imagination full about how challenging business is in Nigeria. But I'd like you to, bring us closer into your space and help us understand what your motivation is for still staying afloat and what business really is like. Oluwajari, first to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And yeah, it's been a very challenging time for us, especially in the processing industry. We source from local farmers who grow cocoa here in Nigeria. But guess what? We buy locally at international market rates. So we purchase based on dollar rates, we purchase based on international market rates, despite the fact that cocoa can be practically growing in my backyard here in Ibadan. And but that's been the struggle. It's been topsy-turvy because imagine moving from 3,000 naira per kilo to 8,000 naira per kilo sometimes in December, 3,000 naira per kilo sometimes in October last year, to 8,000 naira per kilo in December, to 10,000 naira per kilo in January, to 14,000 naira as at yesterday when I still did my price survey. And it's been crazy. The real motivation keeping us afloat is, look, it is our raw material. If we don't use it, we would export it. Somebody else will convert it and sell back to us chocolate. So it's having to totally own that sector, having to totally refine the product and make it into a final product that the Nigerian market can consume and also export is the motivation. So not being able to do that, or say we chicken out of it because of the situation at hand, is like just deciding to give up on our natural resource.
To you now, Mr. Akpa, you're into poultry, and we know how the price of feed is affecting the eventual price of eggs in the local market. Bring us up to speed with what it is like currently, the price of feed for chickens, and how it is impacting on the price of eggs. Mr. Akpa, that's for you.
And good morning to all.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, good morning to all of us. Yeah, just like my guy in the cocoa industry has said, invariably what is happening to the poultry industry today is a bad story. A bad story in the sense that today, most of the poultry farms are closing down. They are closing down not because there is no population or there is no market for poultry products. They are closing down because of the cost of raw materials. And basically what we have as the essential raw materials for the production of meat and egg, that is poultry meat, is basically the raw materials of maize, soya, and other inputs that locally constitute the feed that the birds use. Today, the cost of production is too high. The price of maize is high. There is the complete near absence of maize, the complete near absence of soya, and the prices are on the rooftop. This makes the cost of production so high that invariably the final price of poultry products of chicken and egg is high. And these raw materials constitute almost 70 to 80% of the cost of production of poultry. And that is negatively impacting the industry to an extent that a lot of our farmers are losing money. And because they cannot continue to lose money, most of them are closing down. So invariably, this is affecting the industry very negatively. And we're all worried as investors. We're all worried as people who have staked all our life and money into these businesses. So this is what it is.
So, Mr. Oke, you are the farmer. Give us an aerial view of what is responsible for the challenges that these other industry processors are going through.
Well, thank you. I could say vividly that the period of which we are now is we have to be very, very proactive, especially our governors. The price of commodities is going higher, and we farmers are not happy about it. But what we are thinking we should do to ease most of all these things is for us to come on board. Most of the commodities that we used to produce most of all these feeds, they are here. The research institutes are there. Let us hire on the areas of electricity so that this thing can be produced. We are not happy too. Look at the price of egg. Most of the poultry farmers are now moving out. It has never happened in the history of Nigeria as I was born. I'm over 60. To be selling a egg for almost 300 naira. Our governors have to be on board now. Most of the governors, they have to sit down and iron out how do we. There should be a collective, an area to be like a cluster areas where they could call all those research. Most of these researchers, they are doing well. But how many are hearing what they were doing in their industry there? Let them come together. Let us see what are those things that we are importing. What and what? Can we get it here? Then the price of all those things could not be on board. Where there are problems in the light, let us put solar there. I was in US, I saw the way most of some industries are really functioning with solar energy. This is a period now that the governors have to be on board. They have to see that they own the state. And that will ease the price of those commodities. Because we are not happy too, as a farmer. I heard what the security man was saying about insecurity. It's so alarming. There are some issues to be taken. The era of grammar should have gone now. Let us be on board. Let's sit down. What do we do? Call the stakeholder. How do we move forward from here?
All right. Oluwajare, let's come to you on this particular one. He's talked about some structural issues, legacy issues. For you, besides what he said, what sort of intervention will you see or do you want to see that can, just change things as quickly or as soon as possible? Because it looks like this is an emergency.
Okay, thank you. For me, number one issue is policy. It's kind of similar to what we have in the petroleum sector, what we have to deal with in the cocoa sector too, and especially processing the cocoa into the final product. If we have policy in place that can support local businesses, it doesn't make sense. Like, it doesn't make sense for me to be able to access cocoa less than 20 kilometers away and have to buy it as if I am exporting, as if I am selling it off to another country. There should be policy in place to support local sourcing of raw materials. This is not something we are importing. This is something we are growing. And there are quite a number of other inputs into the chocolate line, into the production of chocolate, one of which is milk. Another is sugar. I'm sure you are very aware how the prices of sugar skyrocketed. And to say that a local, somebody that is transforming, somebody that is converting the product, somebody that is manufacturing, processing the product, and converting it into final products that Nigeria can export is having to deal with a price point that is almost unbearable, that you can't even transfer to customer. That's even where the problem is. Some of this price point is ridiculous to transfer to customer because customer will not buy it anymore. Imagine cocoa products becoming luxury for Nigerians. Like, why should it be? So I think from the point of policy, and of course, there's so much you can do. Yes, we can work with some level of solar energy or renewable energy for production, but it is not sustainable. If there was at least power from the power sector, you are not having to innovate your own source of power. Power for diesel for production has made it extremely difficult. So policy first that would encourage local production, and policies that will promote export of local products.
Let's take it to Abuja. Mr. Akpa, I know that the federal government in their latest package that will come to about 2 trillion naira, there's a support for business almost to the tune of $500 billion in that amount. But I want you to put that at the back of your mind following the next question I want to ask. Now, what has made eggs that used to be 20 naira, 50 naira to now be 200 to 300 naira? Right now when you go to buy, because the last time I went to buy, and when they told me the price, I was almost confused. So you have to ask again, and then they say it again, and that is the reality we face now. So what factors played in to necessitate that price increase, and what intervention do you need to bring it down? Because this is not literature review, this is straight to the people that are in the business. Zakwa, that's for you.
Well, thank you, my brother. You see, the problem of the poultry industry never started today. We know the problem of commodity prices, food shortages is a global affair. But the issue of Nigeria has been an issue that has been there even before the coming in of this government. We had the COVID-19, we had the Naira swap, we had the petroleum price deregulation, and we have a lot of things. The global financial crisis and then the global food shortages is actually what is responsible for the shortage of food, not only in other parts of the world, but especially in Nigeria. And I will say this, when you look at it, when I tell you that the cost of 70 to 80% cost of poultry production emanates from basic raw materials of maize and soya, you could understand that in the last 10, 12, 13 years, we've been having a lot of insecurity in this country. This insecurity in this country has made it impossible for a lot of farmers to go to the farms to farm. And when you look at it from the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, our annual maize production in the last 2-3 years have been hovering between 12 to 12.5 million metric tons of maize. That is according to the National Bureau of Statistics. But when you look at it from the Affairs Commodity Index, it hovers between 10.5 to 11 million metric tons of maize. That is for maize. Soya, up to today, with our agroecological favorable climate and land, we've not been able to hit 1 million metric tons per annum in terms of national production. And then for the poultry industry alone, over 4 million metric tons of maize is needed for poultry production alone out of the 12 million metric tons that is being produced annually. And when you look at this, there is this what we call demand-supply friction. Demand-supply friction, and then the activities of holders, middlemen. A lot of people have come into the grain business to hold, and then they hold and wait until the price goes to the sky, and then it starts to release them. So what we want the government to help us do is to quickly consider the poultry industry as a critical sector, because there is no industry that has contributed 25% of the livestock gross domestic product to the national economy. There is no industry in the agri sector that has provided 25 million direct and indirect jobs to Nigerians. And there is no industry that has a low-hanging fruit like the poultry industry. So to me, the poultry industry is a political affair. It's political affairs in the sense that it cuts across food security, protein supply, the health of the citizens, and trade. So my appeal is that we should have what is called economic nationalism. Economic nationalism in such a way that we need to come up with peculiar policies that will protect our food system, because when you look at it from food studies emanates that, look, the food which which poultry forms an integral part of it, is a fundamental human right of Nigerians. And our worry is that if today, with a population of 200 million people, we are able to produce to meet national demand and then to have the right protein intake for Nigerians, invariably we might become a dumping ground for poultry products from all parts of the world. And that is our fear. And today, a lot of people are losing money. A lot of people are downsizing. 30 to 50% of poultry farms are shutting down, especially the small scale and the medium scale operators. Then the people that are being shown out of these businesses goes back into the unemployment market. So we see a lot of negativity that is coming to affect if we allow the poultry industry to come. First, we should have national economic nationalism in such a way that we should have liberal policies that will be able to galvanize the poultry industry in such a way that we should be able to meet the demand of over 200 million Nigerians in terms of protein intakes, in terms of employment generations, in terms of livelihood creation. And then if we are unable to do this and we allow the poultry industry to go into a comatose situation the way it is going, then it is a bad disaster for this country. So we want the government to come, give special attention, special intervention fund, resuscitate the poultry industry, give a subsidy in terms of electricity supply to the poultry industry, give loans for people to buffer their production activities at below 5% interest rate as it is done in other parts of the country. And the moment that is done, the poultry industry will be what I would call...
Just land on your thoughts, sir. Just land on your thoughts in 30 seconds.
An evolution into the agricultural system in this country.
Fantastic point you've raised. Let me come to you, Mr. Oke, on this one. We've talked about low-hanging fruit. We're talking solution. And one of the things you raised when Bukola asked you that question is the issue, let's come to the table. I know you mentioned that a couple of times. Now we're on the table, for instance. What are you proposing? What are you going to be discussing? What exactly are you saying to the government that you want to discuss in this roundtable?
Firstly, we should look at the ratio of the national budget being given to our agri sector. I've never seen a period that is over 3 or 2.5% from the national budget. It's uncalled for. We've thought there's no way, even when the past government were there, they were able to, they had some programs in Senegal, so that it was all agreed for the African president, the minimum of 10%, of the federal allocation should be given to agri. Yoruba will say, that we didn't even look back. So the thing is started from there. Agri should be taking more cognizance and should be on top of the budget. And from there, they could now analyze livestock, crops, arable crops. Then money could now be ventured there. But when you are giving 2% of the federal allocation, where will you start from? How will you begin? All those things it's uncalled for. We know where the laxities are. So government should now be able to see that agri is a major thing in Nigeria. Like our slogan, we said, great farmer, great nation. No farmer, no nation. We can't do without food. So if allocation is being given, which is the right one, the agencies involved will be involved. I can take you an instance. Some years back when I was growing up, if you go to a farm, you will see some extension officers coming to you. What did you plant? Oh, how is your plant doing? How is it okay? Oh, no, you have to space it. You have to do this. How many are you seeing now? So those are the areas. They will tell you there's no fund. You may not even find them.
Those extension officers, are they from local or state governments? Or
federal?
Federal, okay.
Posted to all the states where there are offices. The same thing, plant quarantine. Plant quarantine has to visit your farm. Because most of the things we do exports, we do plant. They have to check it and see that it is okay. We use appropriate seed, our soil have been tested, all those things. Government agencies have to come on board. A committee should be set up, including the farmers and all the agencies.
Right.
Recently, NAFDAC, about two days ago, Professor Moji Adeyeye, under Business Day also, called most of the stakeholders to enlighten us what they were doing. And from there, we were able to tell them that most of the small-scale businesses were not even being registered. Why? Because of the bottleneck there. How will you even register pure water? They will tell you, go and bring a house, go and bring this, all those things. So, and we're happy to hear that from her, that it has been slashed with 50%.
So finding a good balance, regulation, and then the ease of regulation itself, because food is quite important, particularly in this time. But you've made vital points, so we can have like a rounded discussion. I'll take this to Oluwajari now, and it's quite revolutionary what you're doing, Oluwajari. We all love chocolate, or at least a good number of us love chocolate. But the fact that you are taking something that is ours and keeping it at home rather than exporting raw and then importing finished, revolutionary. So let's talk about the funding part. I know that Mr. Akbar has also spoken to funding. You've talked a bit about power. So let's walk through this. The president just inaugurated a PECC, a Presidential Economic Advisory Council. Had some big names in it, both from government and the private sector. And in that, they said that 650 billion naira, which Jeffrey referenced, is set aside for MSME support. Now, this is an announcement that was made this year, just a few days back. But last year, President Bola Tinubu made an announcement that 125 billion naira has been earmarked to energize the informal sector. Also, 100,000 SMEs and startups are meant to get 75 billion naira, and that's 500,000 naira to 1 million naira, benefits at 9% interest rate per annum and repayment of 36 months. So I want to ask you frontally, this government has announced time and again some of these measures. Has any of them come close to your neighborhood or come close to you? Let us know what kind of support you've gotten from government, if there has been any. And I'm talking across board. If it's state, federal. Has it come close to you, Oluwajari?
Okay. In all honesty, those figures might exist in terms of availability, but access to them is extremely, like Mr. Femi said, it's extremely stringent and extremely difficult to access. Me personally, I've enjoyed two. First of all, the COVID-19 loan, and secondly, I'm able to set up my startup in the Federal Government Incubation Center, which is not within, of course, it has been done many years, even maybe before I was born, maybe. But all those figures you mentioned from last year and this year, except if there are going to be ways of communicating it across to us, right now it doesn't. I don't know anybody that has been able to access that, at least at my scale. Maybe people at higher scales have been able to access it, but me and people at my scale, I don't know anybody. I don't know anybody that has been able to access it. And to a large extent, those funds will go a long way. I'm also playing in an FMCG market, and it requires a lot of funding to get it off the ground. We are refining, we are producing, we have products that is in supermarket, but we cannot use, because first of all, in fact, I punched the numbers into the spreadsheet we used to calculate. And if I use the price of what I just found out yesterday, I am going to increase my selling price by not less than 100% if I am going to make profits. Now, so imagine transferring that 100% to a customer. It becomes something you can let go of. I'm not really interested. It's chocolate spread. It's chocolate. Well, maybe we should eat something, or maybe we should even eat eba before we eventually get to chocolate. So guess what? The producer starts getting less patronage, and of course, maybe he cannot even continue business. He will have to downsize. Maybe so. At the end of the day, the whole sector dies, and it's because we don't have. First of all, the cost is high. Secondly, we can't even access loans that are single digits. For example, of course, I've tried my my best somehow to talk with an industry like the Bank of Industry. But guess what? The steps to even accessing the single digits through the state government is stringent, despite the fact that I've said, look, I am connected to the federal government incubation setup that has been done several years ago. So it's extremely difficult. I mean, it is not a 1 month process, it's not a 2 month process, not even a 6 month process to be able to access this. And guess what? If you wanted 10 million in January, the value of 10 million in July now is about 3 million naira. So tell me how you are going to be able to use that fund to be able to do what you're supposed to do.
What a picture you've painted, Oluwajere. So let me take this to Mr. Akpa. The richest black man on earth recently, well, literally cried out about interest rates in Nigeria, saying we can't create jobs with this kind of interest rate. The CBN says, well, we're trying to tighten inflation and bring it down, but there's the effect on businesses. So the government needs to find a creative way to solve this. Perhaps that's why he's also on that, coordination council for the economy by the president. But I want to speak to you also about funding, seeing that we have identified the problem, you have even spoken about some of the solutions. You've talked about how we need to target our funding and the rest. But let us know how soon we are, by the way, let us know if you've got the funding, but how close rather are we to solving this issue? Because Nigerians at the heart of it want to know, when can I start buying egg back at 25 naira or 50 naira? First, is that even possible? And if that will be possible, how? How soon again?
Fine, my brother. My quick recommendations to what we can do to quickly address this issue is let the federal government declare a state of emergency on poultry production in Nigeria. It's critical, it needs urgent attention. Two, as quickly as possible, let the federal government make available to the poultry industry critical raw materials, especially maize. Because the price of maize now, as of today, the price of maize, depending on where you are in Nigeria, goes between 850,000 to 900,000 per metric ton. The price of soya is around 780,000 metric tons for soya meal and 750,000 per metric tons, depending on where you are. The same thing for soya. Let the government declare state of emergency on poultry production, call for a stakeholders meeting, stakeholders engagement with the government, so that we should now be able to put a pathway for accelerated poultry development in this country, in such situations that the final poultry products of chicken and egg can be affordable for Nigerians. Three, federal government, as a matter of policy, should do what I call nationalistic policy, that we do not have soya. Our annual production per annum is not up to 1 million metric tons. The poultry industry and aquaculture need is over 1 to 1.5 million metric tons. And we are busy exporting these products, and then to the detriment of the local economy. So as a policy, we should be able to call the stakeholders together, dialogue with government, come up with suggestions, pathways for further development, and in very not distant future from now, we should be able to bring the price of egg and chicken down to such a level that an average Nigerian will be able to afford it. Give us maize at subsidy, create the state of emergency, and let us call for a meeting of stakeholders where we can sit with the government policymakers and then rub minds on how to have a quick win solution to most of these problems. If not, Nigeria will once again become a dumping ground. And when that comes around, with a population of 200 million, every part of the world is looking to market their products in Nigeria. And we cannot, and we should not play into their hands. That is my appeal to government.
And it's a no-brainer. We have such a huge market.
Business people in poultry industry are crying. And I'm afraid, because most of them are unable to meet their bank obligations, and the farms are closing down.
Oh dear.
So let government come to our aid.
And the president has time and again told investors that Nigeria is a business destination. This is where you should come to do business. But these are business people telling us about their experience. So, Dr. Oke, let me come to you now. The president had a meeting with governors. That was when he rolled out that reconstruction and support program. And he told governors to go back, come up with a plan, maybe food production plan, come back to him on that one. So, Dr. Oke, I want to ask you pointedly. People have been asking, where is the Minister of Agriculture? So let me ask you, have you heard from the Minister of Agriculture? Have you seen his green light, or is it the red light that they're talking about? And what kind of plan should we be having for food production for states?
Thank you, my brother. Let me first address some of the issues you raised.
There's a lot of things to address right now.
Yes, I will bring them together.
That's right.
The solutions are very, very simple. The area of funding you are mentioning, trillion, million, that time we'll be hearing. This is the thing we'll be hearing for so long. How do you call farmers? How do they access it? It's a simple issue. The BOA is there, which is Bank of Agric. How many farmers are accessing there?
Have you ever accessed?
Up to now, they are still on analog. They will give you 150,000 naira as a starter. What can a farmer do with 150,000 naira? Why can't they improve on Bank of Agric? It's there. Live follow. The government should come back there. 2-3 years ago, we, all farmers associations of Nigeria, brought in a bill when the last president was there. The bill was signed on Nigerian Agricultural Development Fund. This is where the stakeholders come together and we know each other. Accountants know themselves, farmers know themselves, all those associations know themselves. So if this bill was being signed, to implement it now, over 2 years now, it has not come on board. And you are saying we should move forward. I doubt why things are getting slow. The NADF, if it takes off today, I can tell you the ease of the commodities will go down. Because all the agencies that were there before the bill was down, we sat down. The national president was one of the people that defended it. It defended to the basis that an average farmer can easily go there and access money. And that is what we are talking about. We've identified some of these policies for government. Look at the time they did Anchor. What was the result? We told them it can't work. The CBN is doing their own without notifying Federal Minister of Agric. Federal Minister of Agric has some own jobs to do. We were even the one that told them that food security should be emanated, should be included into the federal ministry, not Federal Minister of Agric and all this cooperative. Now, where's the food security? Are we now handling it? We are in food insecurity. So there are some things we should identify.
So you've not heard from the Minister of Agriculture?
We do. He's doing well. He's doing well.
The minister is doing well?
Definitely.
In what way?
To his capacity. We do hear from him. Most of the programs he has, he called we farmer. But to implement, I can tell you vividly, there was a program that was being before this emergency state of all this food insecurity. He appointed every farmers in every state to work closely with the governors of that state. Some states have not even called those farmers. They have to put wrong person there. Why?
Yeah, the reason why we ask whether he's doing well, because we're waiting for him. We're looking for him to have a chat with him.
Definitely.
Because of the issue of
food insecurity.
Definitely. But I can tell you, Kyari, our minister, is doing averagely well. Because the issue there is only because when you are doing some things it's not being elaborate. People are not hearing you. They will think you are not.
No, Mr. Okay. Without cutting, the reason, not casting aspersion on this person.
Yes, of course.
Nigerians are not interested in efforts. I'll keep saying that. Nobody's impressed by efforts. People want to see results. So whatever anyone is doing with all sense of respect and people are not seeing results, they will not say you're doing well. I hope you understand, sir.
Definitely, I hear you. Okay. Like the one I told you now, he brought in all the farmers. Go and work closely with your governor. And the governor of that state ignored. Okay. So then how will you move forward? So definitely there's no result from there. Calling a bricklayer or a carpenter. to work in that axis, you won't get results. All these crises will still be loomed.
So it's curious, you know, and that's why Jeffrey's follow-up is instructive. What exactly is wrong in that space? Is it lack of funding for the massive growing of crops in states from the federal government, you know, that is responsible for that? Or is saying, okay, to your tent or Israel, but the governors are not showing lack of commitment to, you know, massive agricultural development? Is that the case? In just one sentence or two, you know, before I ask my question.
I can say most of the governors are not taking more cognizance, taking more into the agriculture. That might be the result, because some governors are doing well. There's no doubt about that. They are doing well, and we are now seeing what they are doing. And but now everybody is now crying off the price of commodity, which is on the high side. So
okay, I'll just take a quick reaction. This one is from Smart Ejigbo in Lagos, who says, I'm a fish farmer. The price of feed, which accounts for 70% of my cost, has increased 3 times between the 16th of June 2024 and the 4th of July, from 24,000 to 28,500 for a 15 kilograms bag of 2 millimeter size. And he goes on to say a lot of farms have shut down operations on account of cost of feed and energy. Now, let me come to, you know, my question, and I hope that you can answer in about 2 minutes, because we're gradually running out of time. Maybe I should take you to Oluwajari. It could have been appropriate for you, but let's get a holistic view now. Nigeria records about 40% loss to post-harvest waste annually. And, you know, Mr. Oke was talking about what can be done earlier on. I was hoping that besides funding, it will also cover the specifics. And earlier on, Oluwajari, you talked about, you know, the need, that how it is possible to have cocoa grown in your backyard such that you don't even have to, you know, go looking for cocoa farmers. So how can post-harvest losses be reduced? In that regard, are our silos being put into good use?
Okay. I think, first of all, the distribution channels for products, post-production harvest, has to be improved on. You shouldn't have a harvest that is lying fallow in your store or your form of storage as a farmer for longer than is required. For that, you will speak to roads. Because now you start talking about how accessible are these farms by logistics companies. How easy is it for them to pick it up and move it off? Imagine losing as much as 70% harvest, where your profit on even the 100% is less than 20%. You now lose 70% of that harvest to inability to properly distribute. So distribution channels have to be improved. Secondly, storage facilities have to be installed technology for storage facilities have to be introduced to farmers in such a way that it can be locally fabricated and locally installed, such that it is not too expensive. So, for example, if the government is saying, you know what, just because we're having a lot of loss, why don't we say all these farmers, through the Farmers Association, we are not even going to give you funds. Let us install storage facilities for you. We are the ones installing the storage facilities. We have the mechanism to maintain them. We would also train you on how to store properly. Now, that will reduce a lot of wastage. Now, it is not more money. It is not more about asking for 5,000 naira to improve crop. You are asking, your problem of storage has already been solved. So that will go a long way in reducing your waste, because storage doesn't always have to be first pick up from farm, take to one silo somewhere, one grain storage facility somewhere else in another state. Some of those things might be there. I am very sure, right, there are local solutions to such problems.
Let me quickly comment now.
Be solved at farms.
Oluwajari, and you're a testament to the fact that we can solve our problems locally. We have another message from Samson Musa from Abuja this time around. Says, I am a poultry and fish farmer. The challenges I face in my business, that's coming from Samson Musa, they're finance and marketing. Now, those are some of the issues, and we've talked about that. So let me take this to Mr. Akpa as we begin to wind down. We're close to winding down on this now. And I wanted to just, on a final note, speak to some of the points raised here, and maybe one more thing that you'd like us to turn our attention to. That's for Mr. Akpa. Just a final note as we wind down on this. Okay, we'll try to reconnect with Mr. Onalo Akpa in our Abuja studio, but Dr. Okay, final words on this. We're beginning to anchor this.
Yeah, we will still try to encourage government that the area of funding is very, 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 very paramount, which is Nigeria Agricultural Development Fund should be implemented. They should be able to take it off, not only to appoint the ES and the is lying down there. And from there, I'm sure if most of all those things are being done,
right,
there will be more food production in the market because people need funds. Okay. And the body that comprehends the NADF is a whole body that comprises the government and the honorable minister himself, so that it will ease the problem of high inflation.
Okay. We really have to anchor at this point. Yeah.
Bukola, maybe you read the last message before we let it go.
Okay, so the last one is from Emmanuel Zachary, who says, I'm a poultry and fish farmer. The challenges are...
let Nigeria.
Okay, that would be let Nigeria generate alternative sources of electricity and stop depending on analog all the time. That's from Zachary Emmanuel, who wrote to us. So it's been a very, very productive conversation indeed. And we want to thank you very much, Mr. Oluwajari Folabulumole, CEO at Chalkboy Chocolatiers. Thank you so much for your time. We've also had Dr. Femi Oke, Southwest Chairman, All Farmers Association of Nigeria, who joins us from our Lagos studio. Thank you very much, sir. And we've also had Mr. Onalo Akpa, Director General, Poultry Association of Nigeria, Lagos studio. Thank you so much, sir, for your time.